Howdy, howdy, fellow movie fans, and welcome back for another edition of the Wisco Movie Watchers podcast, brought to you by Pete Creative. As always, we are your hosts, Evan and Dylan Davies. Today, we're doing a special sort of anniversary edition of the Big Box Office series, and we're heading back to 1980. Hit The Empire Strikes Back, because we just love pissing off Star Wars fans on this channel, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, you're the one who always asks for it, and I have the same response
Which
every
is
time.
hilarious because you don't like Star Wars and I do, and yet I'm the one who pisses everybody off, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can't fault people for not liking something if it's just not their thing anymore.
Apparently, but we are going to be going...
I think the harshest critics of Star Wars fans are other Star Wars fans, usually.
Yeah.
Doesn't make sense, but...
It's just, I don't know how you look at... We're doing this again already, but I don't understand how you can look at every Star Wars movie and think they're perfect. Because they're not.
Not even close.
For instance, we are shooting back-to-back shows today, and I think Empire is by far the best Star Wars movie. It's my favorite by far.
I would agree.
I think it's the only one that is guaranteed to have your positivity. Because going in, I was like, well, at least it's Empire. So Dylan at least will be happy.
I enjoy A New Hope and Empire. That's really it. Return of the Jedi is kind of fun in like a camp way.
Sure.
I don't think it's aged very well, but...
Yes, but I think it's still fun. And then the rest of them, you're cherry-picking fun out of a lot of crap.
Yeah,
right.
I'd agree.
And so... But I think that's the problem with a lot of the Star Wars fandom is just, it's perfect. It's like, no, it ain't. No, it ain't, dude. It's not. And and that's okay. It's not meant to be perfect. I don't think the Marvel Cinematic Universe is perfect, but it captured the imagination.
not even close.
Exactly. And it shows now because they just made one of their best films, and it's not performing well at the box office by comparison. And it's just how it goes, man. Because they've lost the interest and the faith of people to keep going to see these movies. And now positive word of mouth is going to get them back, but it's a lot harder to recapture what you had than it is to just keep the momentum going. And people don't realize that enough.
Is there even a new Star Wars movie in the works?
Or
are they sticking to television for a while?
I think they shut it down because they were going to do a new trilogy with Daisy Ridley's Rey returning to train like a new crop of Jedi. It was going to be set like 10 years, 15 years in the future from Rise of Skywalker or something like that.
Yeah. All I can remember is like things that haven't since been closed down. Because the Game of Thrones writers were apparently supposed to write something.
Yep.
And then at one point, Jon Favreau was supposed to direct like a Boba Fett movie or something, I think it was.
I think the only thing left in production is the Mandalorian movie, where that's going to tie everything together in their...
It's an odd choice to do it backwards.
It's simply...
TV show and then a movie.
Yeah, I think it's just that's the only one that's shown to be successful and really capture the imagination of people because they were smart. They put it in the time period that people actually wanted to see. What happens after Return of the Jedi? It's not like the Empire just goes away because you blew up a starship, you know? And that was always the interesting stuff when you look at... This is how you can tell I'm a Star Wars nerd. That if you look at all the legacy material, if you look at all the really, really popular stuff that came out in the void of Star Wars when George Lucas was just kind of thinking about prequels or anything like that, it was all set in what happens after Return of the Jedi. And you had the Dark Empire franchise of stuff. You had the Thrawn trilogy of books, which is really, really interesting, where the character Grand Admiral Thrawn comes in. Which, do you know who that character is? The
Grand Admiral Prawn. He's a shrimp, right?
No,
he's the guy with blue skin, isn't he?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
And so, but then they take a lot of the best stuff from the Legends canon material, and they put it into the works now, which is great because then you at least get to see those characters. But that was where all the most popular stuff was set then. And then when he went backwards, and then they went forwards again. And Mandalorian's just like, kind of Wild West here. New Republic's trying, and I guess that's where we're going to go. But that's the only one I know that's still in production, and they're tying in. I know they're trying to tie in like Ahsoka and everything else, which I think Ahsoka's great. Loved Ahsoka. But Book of Boba Fett, most people hated. I enjoyed it, but it's pretty much because it just turned into Mandalorian and Friends. So
Sure. Yeah, I have not seen any of the newer stuff.
I think
Mandalorian, Boba Fett, Ahsoka, none of it.
I think you might enjoy. I know you're out on Star Wars, so I'm not going to try to convince you. If you told me, Evan, you need to try to get me back, I would say watch seasons 1 and 2 of Mandalorian and Ahsoka, and then just cherry pick 2 episodes, 3 episodes out of Boba Fett. Everything else, don't worry about. Actually, Andor is the best they've done, but Andor is very
that's true. Andor.
Self-contained.
I watched the first 2 episodes of Andor and then stopped.
It picks up a lot of steam at the end, but I understand that.
I mean, it was pretty good from what I remember. It's just not my thing anymore, I guess.
You just don't care about Star Wars. And that's a great way to tell you as we go into, let's talk about The Empire Strikes Back here.
Yeah. So, just because it's the box office series, 203 million U.S. gross, and then 549 worldwide. And I'm sure it's a lot higher now, considering like re-releases and all that.
Yeah. And
then rounding out the top 5, you got the next closest movie is 9 to 5, which I found really curious.
Hell yeah! It's my girl Dolly Parton.
Yeah, and it made only 103 million, so it literally doubled the next closest movie. And then Stir Crazy, Kramer versus Kramer, which won Best Picture of 79, and then Any Which Way You Can. Like that's a really random top 5, but I kind of love it.
Shit, I can only think of one other movie that was released in 1980 outside of the list you gave me, and that was Caddyshack.
You got Raging Bull, Ordinary People wins Best Picture of 80, but those aren't like... I'm assuming those came out at the end of the year.
Yeah.
It's usually how it used to go. Elephant Man, I like that movie quite a bit.
That's with Eric Stoltz, right?
No, that's Mask.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
The Elephant Man is the biopic of John Merrick and is by David Lynch, starring John Hurt.
Interesting.
Yeah, the Eric Stoltz one I've never seen though. That's called Mask.
Yeah, Mask almost killed one of our favorite franchises of all time, Back to the Future. But
yes,
that's a different story. God, that's a wild story. I'll give you a little bit of Empire. What's wild is anyone who's a big Star Wars fan's probably seen this stuff. There's great documentary work that's available on Disney Plus through the Light and Magic series or the Empire of Dreams, which was done in 2004 or 5, and it really catalogs the first 3 films. And it's wild to think how much of Empire was in peril, even though it was the sequel to the biggest movie of all time. The point where Bank of America almost pulled their loan and they had to get new financing halfway through the movie. And it's like, dude, and it was simply because an arbitrary rule one bank manager had, where he's just like, I don't do anything over this number. And the producers are like, I have the movie that is the sequel to the biggest movie of all time. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I do respect George Lucas a lot for Empire because he pretty much funds it by himself.
Yeah.
And that's something that I really do respect. I don't know how much of that is he knows what he has, like as a franchise, or if it's just like artistic integrity that he wants it completely to himself.
I think it's both, because at first he did it. At first, when he does the Fox deal, he puts it in writing that he owns the sequels, that he does all this kind of stuff, and he only gets the merchandising because he wanted to make sure people saw the movie. Like, There might be some more greed behind it, but I don't think even at that time George Lucas had the forethought of, I'll be able to name every character and name all and like make 1,000 action figures of every character that's ever been on screen in Star Wars kind of thing. Mm-hmm. He just wanted to make posters and t-shirts and things to make people go see the movie. And it just turned out that he created the greatest fantasy epic in film history in terms of like changing the guard. As much as I love Lord of the Rings and I think it's a better franchise, it's not a film franchise by itself, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So it's just wild that happens. I think he had to give a little bit back to Fox to get the funding after Bank of America pulled his loan, but wasn't enough because Fox is like, we want to release this movie. This is money to us. Fuck you. Don't take our money.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this movie's practically an independent movie.
Yeah.
Technically. And then it's sold after the fact, which a lot of people do that. Like, I know David Lynch would do that a lot, but you don't really see it with blockbusters anymore. Actually, you never see it with blockbusters anymore.
Because they're fucking expensive and you're taking all the risk.
Yeah.
Well, on top of that, I also love that, just because you're on top of the respecting George Lucas button, I really love that he always did profit sharing with all of his crew. I thought that was incredible. That's the way it's supposed to be done. He's like, I'm going to give ILM people a bunch of money and bonuses because they helped make this movie. You know, he's super... I love the... Have you ever heard the Alec Guinness story about how he got more money for Star Wars? So George Lucas, after the fact, when the tracking for the movie starts coming out, he's like, oh, you know, Alec, you were a big part of this, and it looks like the movie's going to do pretty good, and you were such a good force for us on the movie. We want to add some more money for you, so we're going to give you an extra 0.5% of the gross.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then Gary Kurtz calls, and he's talking to Gary Kurtz, the producer, and he's like, hey, I just want to get something in writing. You know, my agents are like, I should get something in writing. And he's like, oh, yes, about the extra 0.25%, right? Because Gary Kurtz is like, I don't know if we want to give him a 0.5%. And it's like, no, George Lucas said he's getting an extra 0.5%, which is a lot of fucking money back then. So it's just wild to think of how much George Lucas is like, no, you helped. You get money. You have money. So it's something I really respect about George Lucas, the human being on that part. About that. Say what you will about him as a creator or of a filmmaker at the time, but goddamn, I took care of his people, believed in his vision, financed it as much as he could by himself. You got to give credit to that. You really do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's also curious that he gives away directing rights to Irvin Kershner, because I would think, like, as the person who created Star Wars, you would think he would want 100% control, which he would have as director. Whereas this is much more of a collaboration.
Yeah, and he was thinking about the future and getting things set up for the future, and I think that's a reflection of a healthy point of growth, of knowing your strengths and weaknesses. And he went back to his teacher and said, I trust him. Let him do it. You know, Irvin Kershner was one of his teachers at USC. You know, that's why he gets offered the job. It's not because it's like, oh, I just love Irvin Kershner's work.
I don't know how much Irvin Kershner had done before this.
Well, I looked at, like, not a ton, but also he does a lot of romance dramas. He does a lot of that stuff. He doesn't do Star Wars.
Oh. Yeah, I'm just going to look up real quick, like, his biggest movie before this. Yeah, there's really not much. I mean, the only one I actually know of on this list is Eyes of Laura Mars, and that's like that's not a big movie.
No,
that's just a smaller movie that Faye Dunaway is in.
Yeah,
so like it has a star, but it's not like it's nowhere near a blockbuster.
No, and that's the thing is, I mean, he even knew, he's like, I don't know if I'm a good choice for this. He's like, I'm not sure, and then he told his agent. His agent's like, are you crazy? You're taking this movie, and he's like, all right, I'll take it. And it's the best thing that ever happened to Star Wars, because without Empire, this is not the same thing. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying Star Wars would have been just a passing fad, and then it's not what it is today. It certainly wouldn't be what it is today, though, without Empire. Empire is the thing that solidifies it as, yo, this is the thing that needs to be around forever.
Hey, I got a question for you. Would you rather see a George Lucas directed Empire or the original David Lynch Return of the Jedi that it was supposed to be planned?
Never heard David Lynch was supposed to be involved in Return of the Jedi.
Oh yeah, he was originally attached to it.
Because the other
Let
thing
me make
is,
sure.
Lucas wanted Spielberg to direct Return of the Jedi, but because
Yes.
he quit all the guilds, he couldn't have it.
Yeah, let me just make sure. I'm fairly certain it was David Lynch.
Which that would be fucking wild.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So George Lucas initially offered the Lynch the role, but Lynch decided he didn't want to do it. He had no interest in it.
I mean, I would like to see.
That would be a crazy fucking movie. I can't imagine that. Because, like, have you seen Dune, the original?
I've seen parts of it. That's fucking wild.
Oh boy, I cannot imagine Star Wars in the hands of David Lynch.
The only reason I think I would still favor that is Return of the Jedi. I think is good. I don't think it's as good as Empire, but I like it. And I think that it's the first example of Star Wars having really high points and lower points, but I think the low is like average to good, and the high points are really high. Whereas the prequel trilogy is either really high or real low. It's just a huge gully of what could be in between.
Yeah.
Whereas I think like with Empire, everything's up here. I was just floored at the level of detail that was put into that movie that I was just wowed by when watching it. And I think I'd rather take the David Lynch Return of the Jedi just to be like, maybe it could be better.
I'd be very curious to watch it.
Because as much as I love... I mean, I do have an affection for New Hope. I don't love it that much, though. Empire is what makes me love Star Wars the most. Empire is the thing where I'm like, no, I understand why this is as big as it is. New Hope, I'm like, yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. One of the things I don't want to say bugs me about Star Wars fans, but it doesn't make sense to me why they try to like defend the fact of like they always say, "Oh, George Lucas had it all planned out from the start," and it's like there's no possible way he had Leia being Luke's sister. Like you would never have that kiss moment at all. Like
No.
it'd be so weird to put that in there.
Well, there's
knowing.
two of them in this movie. It's not just the one that everyone thinks about. That's my only flaws in this movie, honestly.
Oh, okay. So what? Talk about the second one because I think I have something to talk about with that.
So it's... They save Luke as he's hanging off the bottom of Cloud City after he's made the jump and just said, no, I'm not going to join Vader. He reaches out with the Force to Leia. They come get him. Another great attention to detail. Billy D. Williams, Lando, unclipping a clip so they show there actually is safety restraints in Star Wars.
Oh.
But it's just a nice little detail where you're like, that's tangible. That's real. I can feel Star Wars here, right?
Nope. The first of barely any other ones.
Exactly. And it's Lando and Chewie are piloting. They're trying to get away from the Empire. Leia's taking care of Luke, but she's like, I need to get back up there because I got to take charge. It's a great way of... like, everything outside of Luke at the end of the movie is great to show Leia being a leader. And I think it's awesome because Carrie Fisher does a great job with it. Just let Carrie cook. It's fine. Just let her be the boss.
Also, it is very surprising how good of a performance she gives, considering she was already, like, I don't want to say in a bad place, but definitely struggling. Like, she had already had an addiction. She had, like, a bipolar disorder that I don't want to say was managed by those hard drugs, but it seems to be the case.
Well, on top of that, she's now, after she revealed it in her book a couple of years ago before she passed, that she had an affair with Harrison Ford that apparently ended, but then they're working together in a huge romantic capacity in this, plus all that shit. So you're like, that's a lot to deal with, man.
So the affair was before Empire?
Yeah, it was on New Hope.
Oh, okay. I thought it was during Empire and then before Return of the Jedi.
I could be wrong. We should look that timeline up to... We don't need to, but it's just one of the things where you're like, that's fucking wild if that's the case.
Yeah.
But I swore it was on A New Hope, but maybe I'm wrong.
You're probably right. You know more about Star Wars than I do.
But it's the scene in which there's just this thing where she's laying Luke down.
You're right. It was during A New Hope.
which again, it's just like, it's someone that you've previously dated in secret, and you're doing a huge romantic plot with them, which doesn't end well in Hollywood most of the time.
Yeah.
And you're dealing with all that shit.
Actually, something I just learned, talking about Carrie Fisher, her mom is Debbie Reynolds.
Yep.
Big star back in the day, 50s.
Eddie Fisher is her father.
Yes, so one of the things I learned was Elizabeth Taylor and Debbie Reynolds used to be best friends. Debbie Reynolds was married to Eddie Fisher. And then after Elizabeth Taylor's, I think it was her third or fourth husband, died in a car crash, it came out that Eddie Fisher and Elizabeth Taylor were having an affair. And it like created this huge scandal, and I was like, "Oh, that's dirty, Elizabeth."
Ooh.
Just cheating on or having an affair with someone else's husband that happens to be your best friend. Not a good look.
That's a... Ooh.
Yeah.
About...
Same thing happened to Shania Twain as well.
Yep, exactly.
People are shitty, I guess.
It made Shania lose her voice. Legit. But she's back. The Canadian songstress is back, so we're okay. She can sing her best hits again and feel good about them. Because she married her best friend's husband because he got cheated on, and they bonded together because of that shit. That's fucking wild. That's some karmic justice if I've ever heard it. That's some karmic justice if I've ever heard it. Being like, fuck you guys, you cheated on us, and then just pushed us together, and now we're in love, and it's like, okay.
Yeah, that is curious. I guess Debbie Reynolds didn't have the choice to do that. The dude died. Yeah.
So
crazy stories back in the day.
So wild. But to get back to the scene itself, she's going to go back up to the cockpit of the Falcon, and she, like, kisses Luke on the lips again. And you're just like... And in the moment, I think the moment's going for... The problem is I think it's too much to interpretation, because I think the moment's going for, I'm trying to comfort him. But it's like, you just said you love someone 20 minutes ago, and then you are doing this, and you already showed you're willing to use Luke as a ploy to piss Han off earlier, and you kissed him in the last movie. It's just a lot going on that you're just like, that was unnecessary. Where, like, to me, if someone said you gotta have it, I would have been like, kiss him on the forehead. Just make it very clear this is a platonic, I care about you, I want to make sure you're safe. Don't give anybody any ammunition whatsoever to make this. Could this be romantic?
Yeah. Well, okay. Is there a shot in that part where it's like they're actually coming together, like it's a romantic kiss?
No.
Okay, so I thought that too, because I was like, did I miss this in the movie? Because I watched the original Empire trailer before watching the movie, and there's a shot in there where it's like a very romantic moment between Luke and Leia, where like they slowly come together, like a normal like love, like a classic kiss back in the day.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't remember this in the movie at all.
No.
And then I was like, maybe I was writing a note during it, but yeah, I was like, because it's not the scene where she actually kisses him the first time. Mm-hmm. Because that's like a pretty rushed moment where she just spur of the moment decides.
Yeah, she's doing it to piss Han off. She's not doing it because she loves Luke. Yeah.
But the shot in the trailer is like a true romance moment. It's really weird.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think maybe that's just a remnant of some possible love triangle thing, which I can't see George Lucas approving. Maybe.
Well, so apparently they were supposed to introduce. This is according to internet research, so I don't know how true it is, honestly.
Grain of salt.
Yeah, but apparently they were going to introduce a new character in Return of the Jedi that was Luke's sister, long-lost sister. And then during the writing of Return of the Jedi is when they decided it's going to be Leia. So
I've never heard that before, and they've revealed a lot of Star Wars secrets.
I mean, I think it is like kind of a he said, she said thing with Star Wars a lot of time, where it's like other people will say completely contradictory stuff, and they all worked on the movie or something. So it's
I think the biggest problem with that, in terms of speaking to that culture, is people do not realize how essential other writers were for the original three. And then they got too used to, through the prequel trilogy, just hearing George, 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 George. Because that's all. George was the writer. To the point where the only time I've ever heard anyone try to make a pass at a prequel trilogy was George asked Lawrence Kasdan to come back and take a pass at the Phantom Menace script. But it was way too late in the pre-production phase, and Lawrence Kasdan's like, it doesn't matter if I do this or not. We're too late in the game. I won't be able to change really anything and make it better, so I'm not going to do it. It was just like, he's like, it's a futile exercise. I can't change anything because you're so far into the pre-production phase that it's not going to matter.
I do wish that he would have given Lawrence Kasdan a chance to look at Attack of the Clones.
Yeah.
Because I think the romance parts of Anakin and Padme would have been
1,000 times better.
Yeah, a lot more natural than they are. So, yeah, I do wish that would have been the case. It's kind of a shame that he didn't ask other people.
Well, I think he just got so guarded about everything, and it's like, dude.
Well, even this movie, he's not the sole writer.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't see the point of view of, like, oh, George Lucas knows best. Because he does seem to really work well with collaborators.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the funniest part is
and not just on Star Wars either.
Yeah. Well, the funniest part is his best work on Star Wars by the fans that say that. They're all fans of the Clone Wars. And he had Dave Filoni, an entire room of writers that took it, really respected what he said, but then they got to do their own stuff.
Sure.
And it's inspired all the good stuff that's come out of Star Wars now. Some of the bad stuff, too. But all of them still like to go talk to George and get their opinion. And it's hilarious that's like, oh, George is God. It's like, hey, God's been playing with a lot of friends, and you're not giving anybody that credit. You're just like, oh, George is like God. It's like, no.
Yeah. I just don't like that blind loyalty to him. A lot of the fans, like the die-hard fans, are very, very protective and very loyal to an odd degree.
I think I love and respect George Lucas for a lot of reasons, but I can still criticize the creative choices that he made in some of his films. I think that's the right way to do it. Where I look at him like, he seems like a really good human being that actually tried to take care of people, respected their work, let them do their thing, didn't try to meddle in it as much, but had a creative vision. And then that creative vision got a little out of whack, and he made some choices I disagree with. But then also is the greatest arbiter to get films to where they are today. That's not an argument. That's just factual with how much he wanted to advance technology for film. So it's just like, you can admire him for all the positives that he did, but you don't have to always you don't have to suck his dick every single second and be like, oh, George, everything you do is so good. It's like, no. Look at Phantom Menace. Look at Attack of the Clones. God damn, that movie's bad. Like, that's a horrible movie.
Yes.
At least Phantom Menace has Duel of the Fates, so you're at least like, I got something here.
One of the things that actually really also benefits this movie is that I don't know for a fact.
I can't hear it. It's no big deal. Let him go. Let him cook. Let Lupin cook.
Okay. Lupin's gonna bark. This seems to be the one that was affected the least in terms of the special edition stuff.
I noticed that too when I watched it. There's like nothing in there that you just go, everything feels like it would have been an improvement or a net zero change. Nothing feels like it's like, what the fuck?
I think some of the like Cloud City stuff was the most affected. So it's like, and that's not even big stuff. Like in A New Hope, I mean, he just throws in random ass creatures out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And then in Return of the Jedi, there's a whole musical number that gets thrown in there for no reason.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's strange.
Exactly. But Empire, again, it shows how good Empire is. That was one of my merits to be like, that shows how good Empire is. George Lucas doesn't add anything. It's just, we're going to clean up the ships, and we're going to make them look real cool, and we're going to build up Cloud City. And in those ways, knowing the pre-production they were going into for Phantom Menace, if you look at it, it's very logical that someone that likes continuity would go, wait, why would everything just cease existing on that level? It's logical that cities would still exist that way, and so it's like, yeah, Cloud City's going to be a real city. You're like, okay, yeah, makes sense. It's the same thing. People were to complain about that because I have my own bitches with the special editions too. I don't know how, but I did see original cuts of the films. I think it's simply because I got old VHS tape rentals one time, but then I bought the special editions as a kid, not knowing that they were different.
Yeah.
Was like I look at it like Pokemon. Pokemon, that's an 8-bit or 16-bit game that's held together by fucking popsicle sticks and glue if you actually look at the code. But then when you take those original games and put them into Fire Red, Leaf Green, or even to Heart Gold and Soul Silver, everything looks exponentially better because they're like, well, there'd be far more detail in this world than just a rectangle with a hut on it, you know? Like, let's put some detail on stuff. And it's logical that you would do that. You wouldn't just be like, well, that's what it looked like in the original game. It's like, yeah, but we had no graphic capability in that original game. Now we do. Let's fucking put some detail to it. It's the same thing here, and that's why I'm like, yeah, I think all the changes they make in that are positive or net zero changes that don't affect the movie, and I think those are the best changes you can make. It's either positive or it doesn't change anything but doesn't hurt anything, and that's okay. Simply put.
Yeah, I mean, I do respect that also in terms of he's not the director of this movie, so technically speaking, this one and Return of the Jedi are the ones that he really shouldn't be touching all that much.
Yeah.
Considering it should be the director who has the final say. At least normally it is.
Yeah.
Unless it's like a studio disaster.
Or Tom Cruise is working on it.
Yeah.
Right before shooting, when I was eating breakfast, I was watching the shit show.
The Mummy?
On The Mummy, yeah.
Yeah, I watched that too. Yeah, it is kind of... You can definitely tell Tom Cruise has the power in certain situations.
Well, it's also funny because it's hilarious to see or hear how many people on that set were split, where they're like, this thing sucks. Tom's just trying to make it successful and good. Or how many people are like, man, Tom's getting to make a lot of decisions that we don't think he should be making, you know?
Yeah. I mean, that whole venture was a disaster from the start.
Well, they had no continuity. They had no unity. They had no plans. They just fucking did shit. What do you expect's gonna happen?
Yeah, I haven't seen that movie since the theater, but boy, that sucked.
Did I watch that a second time? I'm not sure.
Have you ever seen the trailer that came out where they didn't put in the sound?
I heard about it and watched like 10 seconds, and I was excited for the movie because I was like, whoa, Tom Cruise and Universal Monsters. This is something I'm interested in, and intentionally didn't watch it. I saw the 10 seconds on the plane where it's just Tom Cruise like shouting, and it's like, this sucks. I don't want to do this.
It is probably the funniest thing that's ever happened to Universal. Like I think they took it down now, but I bet you can find it somewhere. It is hilarious.
Oh yeah, you can definitely find it. But it's that's what it is sometimes. Sometimes it's shit and sometimes it's not. That's how it goes. And it's funny to see that in comparison to something like Star Wars where, like you said, he shouldn't be touching Return of the Jedi and Empire very much. In Empire, it's just graphic updates. That's all it is.
Yeah.
There's no beef. There's no maybe some color. That's it. There's no.
I do get annoyed that they just like refuse to put out the despecialized editions. Like it'd be really cool if they just put out the originals.
I don't think there's any chance. I think I don't know if this is true, but I've definitely heard that part of the Disney deal to buy Lucasfilm was you will never release the original cuts of Star Wars. Number one. Mm-hmm. 2, I don't think there's any real chance of that being on a true level of release until George Lucas dies. I just don't think there's ever a chance that's ever going to happen until George Lucas passes away. Because I think he will imbue himself with 5 extra years of life, like fucking Emperor Palpatine, to fight the idea of that happening.
I just wish he would come to terms with the fact of, like, there's a lot of fans that would rather watch the original cuts. Like Spielberg did with E.T., where he, like, took out the guns, put in walkie-talkies and shit, and then eventually Spielberg was like, yeah, that was a mistake. I wish George Lucas would just kind of come to terms with the fact of like, maybe it would be better.
Yeah, I mean, it's just something that personally bothers him quite a bit. But yeah, it's something where it's like I'd like to watch the original cuts of the movie again. I think now that I think about it, our neighbors, the Trebons, had the original trilogy cuts on VHS, which is why I think I
Huh?
watched them by themselves. Or I watched
Mhm.
Star Wars technically too early, but like I got to watch the original cuts. And then when I bought Star Wars on VHS when I was like 9 or 10 with my birthday money, it was the special editions because that's what was in
Yeah.
stock. It'd be nice if that were available to us, but it's not. The other thing is, did you know this year the first time Star Wars will ever be screened in its original format is being done as part of a film festival? Since it's
What do you mean?
19 for the first time since 1978 re-release, there is a film festival in London that is showing an original copy of A New Hope. No
Oh,
special
so
edition shit.
despecialized. Okay.
Nothing. It's the original cut, and they have kept that bitch with the original film in pristine condition in like temperature controlled rooms since its 78 release.
Yeah. I mean, something else was just supposed to have that same thing. I can't remember what it was, but there was something that was supposed to come out, and it was like original cut of a certain movie, and then the studio shut it down. They're like, "No, you're not doing that." So I'm surprised Disney's going to let that happen. Honestly.
I don't know what it is. It's a very special engagement to the point where now it's going to become one of the most famous screenings in history simply because they can do it. But
Yeah.
it's going to be wild to see if that happens because then there's going to be people that are going to fly all the way across the world just so they can watch the original cut of Star Wars.
I mean, hey, smart business.
Good on them. But yeah, that's the thing. I wish Disney Plus just had it. Just digitize the copy and just be like, okay, you want to watch the original cut? Here you go. You want to watch special edition cut? Here you go. Go for it. We don't care. That'd be the best way to do it. Let George have his stuff. Let the fans have their original stuff and go with it. But we should get into Empire. We barely talked Empire in here. What were some of the positives that you really, really noticed out of Empire?
Well, for one, the Hoth opening is great.
Oh, so good.
It's just, uh, it's a really cool combination of like a lot of different styles of filmmaking. Because you get like, it's not necessarily stop motion. I think it's actually called go motion technically, because stop motion doesn't have any motion blur, whereas with go motion you do get motion blur, so it makes it look a little more realistic. So yeah, like a lot of that, a lot of like great miniature work, and then also like obviously Star Wars has some of the best matte paintings of all time.
Oh, yeah. Ralph.
Like quite, I mean, it is like it is just a group, whole crew of people who are at the top of their game at that point.
Well, that's the thing. ILM in Empire is truly the best of the best. Where
Yeah,
they were just like, nope, we are going to take the best that we had from the last movie. We're going to hire better people for this one, and we're going to really shoot our shot. What I noticed throughout the entire film that I really really enjoyed was the color. Nothing ever gets too bright. Nothing is ever the only thing that's bright in the entire movie is the snow fight on Hoth with the AT-ATs. Other than that, there's
yeah.
nothing
I
that's
mean,
light bright, and I love that because it really hits home the somber tone of the movie and the darker themes of the movie. I absolutely adore that.
yeah, it's definitely a different take on Star Wars because the first A New Hope I always picture is like very warm.
Yeah,
It's very like oh it looks like a western, an old western back in the day, which is exactly what he was going for. And then this one feels a lot more modern,
yeah,
a lot more like definitely leaning into sci-fi a lot more than A New Hope was.
yeah.
Yeah, it's funny that everyone always like when they talk about the Star Wars universe, they always talk about like that lived in kind of look to everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I would actually argue that Empire has the least of that feeling.
Sort of, because it's also where it gets a
Everything,
little bit more fantastic. It's
yeah,
where
everything feels like pristine almost.
sort of, yeah, I could see it. I could see it.
I mean, I don't think that's a bad thing either.
No, I
It's
It's more so, I think there's a tangibility to it that still allows it to be fantastic, but you feel like you can reach out and touch it. You feel like you can see
Sure.
it, touch it, feel it.
And that's what you get when you actually have practical stuff.
Yeah. I just love the color work in this. I loved I think all of the scenes are mapped out so well to allow it to feel. And the other things, especially that early stuff on Hoth, just some of those shots that are on a singular face, telling the emotion without saying it. You know, when they're like, hey, we got to shut the blast doors. And you can see Leia is super concerned for Luke and Han. But instead of her having to say a monologue, it's just put the shot on Carrie and let her be.
I'm wondering if maybe George Lucas had written a monologue for that. Just like he did with Han at the end instead of I know.
Yeah.
Like Harrison Ford always talks about that moment where he's supposed to like say this whole romantic thing and then it's like, nah, let's not do that.
Well, yeah, it's my favorite is he said George wrote I love you too. And he's like, I think it's a wasted character moment. And then Irvin Kershner's just like, don't think about it. Just do it. And he's like, I love you. I know. And I loved when he talks about it now, especially as a grumpier, older man. He's just like, what does every woman hate to hear? I love you. I know. And he's like, you want your badasses to be a badass to the end. And you're right.
Oh.
As much of a dick move as it is, everyone's like, yeah, it's fucking Han Solo.
I just finally found it because I was looking for it the whole time. It was the original Joel Schumacher Batman Forever cut that was supposed to be showed at some film festival, and then Warner Brothers said, no, you're not doing that. So
interesting. But yeah, I think some of the facial shots here are so good. The color on all of this is tremendous. Even the crawl. The crawl is brief, and it's to the point. It gets across, hey, some times happened since the Death Star. But that doesn't mean that it's just tomorrow. And it's really smart. Brief and to the fucking point.
Yeah. I was really laughing my ass off during the opening. Because is it the Wampa? Is that the Yeti-looking thing?
Yeah.
Right? I was like, oh, I wish they would do a mashup of this with the Rudolph Abominable Snowman. It'd be so awesome to put that in there. I mean, they kind of have the same vibe.
They do. 1000% they do.
I actually really love the look of the Wampa. Like, it looks like a guy in a suit, but I love that about it.
Doesn't matter. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
It gets pretty dark, too.
Yeah. That's what it needs. That it needs to feel that way. And that's what I love. Also, the snowtrooper designs on Hoth are so cool. God, that's rad. Also, I loved again, Star Wars. One thing I'll give modern Star Wars a lot is they do so much analysis on the previous work of, like, I assume you've seen at least still images of Anakin from the Clone Wars series.
Oh, yeah, the animated one, yeah.
Like how his shoulder armor is the exact same as Vader, just a different color. I noticed that while looking at Vader's armor, and I was just like, that's perfect. Like, it's got the same cuts here, and it's got the same pattern, or damn close, and it's such a clear, like, we're telling you this is what happens without without having to say it, and it's a great attention to detail. I did want to give credit to that, to some of the new stuff. Also, I really like the injection of some of the humor. None of it's gags, but it's very much just organic. It just happens. Some of it's haha, and some of it's actually laugh out loud funny to a degree that I really appreciate. And again, it balances the tone so well. Love that about this film.
I will say, the shot of Luke in that, like, little incubation tube thing,
the back to tank,
that's a funny visual. Like, it does not fit in there at all. But
I think I think it works because I'm a Star Wars fan and I know what that means. But I can understand if someone had no clue and they're just like, the fuck is he in his underwear, just being like.
Yeah, I think it's the fact that he looks like he's in a diaper. I think that's why it's weird. If he was like in some kind of medical get up or something, it'd probably be a little more, at least a little less funny.
Yeah.
But it's pretty hilarious.
He does look like he's in a scientific souped up diaper. And that is also fucking hysterical.
Oh, also, I watched like a couple interviews from 1980 of it was mostly Mark Hamill and Harrison Ford doing talk shows, and it is so funny listening to like because there wasn't like pundits back then, film pundits and stuff.
Yeah.
It was just like regular talk show people talking to about movies, and it's like these uppity people in suits and stuff talking about Star Wars, and I was like, oh, this is a fucking like complete 180 from like the stuff we have now where it's like people in t-shirts, people in fandom t-shirts and stuff
Yes.
interviewing the stars. And I was like, it's so funny listening to like these uppity newscasters like talking about Han Solo and oh, Lando Calrissian. It's like
Who is
it's
this Lando
really
Calrissian that you're talking about? Is that
yeah.
the actor Billy D. Williams? And that's like the level of their questioning.
Yes, that is exactly their questioning. And they're always like, "Oh, so you're doing another one, right?"
Yeah.
It's like, "Yeah, yeah, we're doing 3." It is really wild.
It's fun to see. Now, beyond all the stuff on Hoth, we were trying to make this somewhat of a shorter episode, but I don't want to lose anything. The other thing is, like, I will say, Star Wars has been talked to death already, so I just want to highlight some of the stuff that isn't talked about as much. Old Codger Yoda is fucking spectacular on Dagobah. Where
I
he's
do
just
have a problem.
fucking with Luke the entire time, and I'm here
Yeah.
for it.
I don't have a problem with this in Empire, but this later creates a problem I have with The Last Jedi, where Yoda shows up as a ghost, a Force ghost,
Yeah.
and he's acting like the Yoda before he reveals who he really is. You know,
Yeah.
he's acting like really weird and funny, and like it's like no, that's not what Yoda was. He was acting like that weird person before he reveals that oh, he's actually the this great Force user and stuff. It's just something that always bothered me about The Last Jedi. One of many things.
One of many. Can't wait till we review that movie.
Yeah,
Because I'm going to have a lot of fucking complaints about it.
that's my least favorite of all the Star Wars prequels and all.
I agree. I don't know. I really hate Attack of the Clones. But yeah, I agree. Last Jedi sucks.
Attack of the Clones at least has Across the Stars, which I think is a great.
I think it's one of the best pieces of music that John Williams has ever done. And that says
Yeah,
a
I
lot.
love it.
It's an amazing piece of music. But yeah, old Codger Yoda is fucking awesome. Where he's just fucking with Luke the entire time.
He's eating his like I don't know what he was eating, like a hot dog or a carrot or something. It was
Yeah.
weird looking.
It's awesome though. It's hilarious. And again, like I just kind of stopped taking notes for a while towards the end because everything was just enjoyable. I think that's a really good telltale sign on the show is if you and I stop taking notes for a while, it's because we just want to watch the movie and enjoy it.
I didn't take any notes about the actual movie. All I did was research notes.
But I love that tonal shift in Yoda because it's just very much I'm going to test this kid without him knowing. I want to see what he's actually like. And then
Yeah.
when he shows to be way too impatient, he's like, I can't do this. And all of a sudden he's like, you see Luke just turn, he's like, fuck.
Maybe it would make more sense in The Last Jedi if he was doing that to Rey.
Yes.
Rather than Luke, who's someone already
He's his
familiar
fucking
with who
mentor.
Yoda
He
is.
already knows it. He's been talking to him for years.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and then one of the other standout moments I think is I don't know what you call it, like when they're flying into that asteroid belt.
Yeah, asteroid field, yeah.
Yeah, that part's probably the best in my opinion of this movie. Obviously, you have like the "I am your father" and stuff, which honestly, it's kind of a fucking shame that people were just perfectly okay with spoilers back then because it came such a known thing.
Yeah.
Like even people nowadays who haven't seen Star Wars probably still know.
Probably.
The I
They
am your
definitely
father.
still know that Vader is his father.
Yeah, it's a shame that it kind of caught fire like that because it is such a great reveal.
Oh, well, that's the thing, and they kept it secret, too. The only people that knew were George, Irvin Kershner, Lawrence Kasdan, and Mark Hamill told on the day. He's like, hey, just want to let you know, this is the actual scene. He's going to say something else to you, but you're going to know, and we're going to know if it gets out that you're the one who told everybody. And Mark Hamill was like, fuck, okay. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Like, I just do wish it was like people were a little more conscious of spoilers back then, because that really wasn't a thing. Like, hey, protect
oh, could
the
you
audience who hasn't seen
imagine?
it.
Could you imagine the hate if that came out today and if Star Wars was as popular back then and someone spoiled that? I'm still mad at someone over a year later that they spoiled Blade and fucking Deadpool and Wolverine for me. I knew some crazy shit was going to happen. I didn't, but I intentionally was like, I'm not going to read anything. I don't want to know. I've heard some spoilers. I don't want to know anything though. And then someone right outside the theater, God, I can't believe Blade was in there. I was like, do you not see 50 people walking into the same fucking theater to watch the movie? Go the fuck outside, shitty. Asshole!
Yeah, that's shitty. By the way, I still haven't seen that movie. Is it the Wesley Snipes Blade or the new iteration?
Wesley Snipes, baby.
Oh, nice. Okay. He needed a little bit more money for his tax evasion crime.
Well, it's just like, Ab and I have a rule that if the theater's deserted, just talk whatever. We just do it really quietly. If it's a busy night at the theater, a busy day at the theater, we do not speak, except in generalities about the movie, until we are either in the car or outside of anyone's actual range.
I think most people know that nowadays.
Yeah.
There are a couple shitty people who just are like completely oblivious.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you see people lining up outside a theater, hey, maybe don't talk about like really important things that are plot points.
Yeah, Seinfeld taught everybody that about the fucking English Patient.
Oh, did they? I only remember them bashing the English Patient.
Well, no, because you remember they're outside, and maybe it's not the English Patient movie, but I think it is. And there's a whole line of people that go in to see the movie, and Elaine's coming out. He's like, and the whole part with this is so stupid. And there's someone in line that's like, thanks a lot, we're just going to see the movie. And they're just like roasting the crew. And it's like, yeah, good on you guys for roasting them. They shouldn't be doing that shit. Get a block away before you talk about it.
I will say it is very funny thinking of people getting upset about the English Patient spoilers, though.
It is hilarious, yes.
That would never happen nowadays. Everyone would be like, this fucking movie sucks, it's boring.
Yeah.
Even though I love it.
Also, this has been talked to death, but we gotta talk about it. That first scene of Han and Leia actually kissing is tremendous.
Well, they have great chemistry, yeah.
Well, beyond the chemistry, what I loved is how much I think they accurately portrayed life. And I know that's crazy, but I loved, you see the I shouldn't, but I want to, better than almost any time I've ever seen it on screen before with Carrie Fisher.
Mm-hmm.
But I loved how she's like, I don't do this, like, I happen to like nice men, all that stuff. And she's backing away. But when it comes down to it, she doesn't just take the kiss, she goes for it too. And it's such a great character moment to see, like, yeah.
It's pretty incredible, the leap that Carrie Fisher takes from this, from A New Hope to this.
Yeah.
Like, she steps it up so much more. Like, it's very obvious in A New Hope that she's, like, a fresh, young actress.
Yeah.
Whereas in this, she feels very seasoned. Like, she feels very confident in what she's doing. Because I don't think you get those moments, what you talked about with, like, the doors closing and then she's worried about Luke. I don't think you get little quiet moments like that in A New Hope so much. So it is really nice to see that. And I love Carrie Fisher in everything. Like, she's great in When Harry Met Sally. She's great in The Burbs. Like,
oh, yeah. No, anytime I go back and watch a movie and I don't know and Carrie Fisher pops up, I immediately like the movie more. Because I just like Carrie Fisher. There's just something about her that's...
It's a shame that her and Mark Hamill didn't really get, like, big careers after Star Wars.
Yeah.
Because they're both really great.
Well, the thing is this, they found their niche. Where Carrie Fisher is one of the greatest unspoken script doctors in history. For the amount of times people would just kind of sneak a script to Carrie Fisher and she'd just do a write-up for them, was wild. And it was, when you heard the stories, you're like, wait, what? You went to Carrie Fisher for that and she did that? And you're like, yeah, she's amazing at it. Or Mark Hamill, same deal, like, he kept getting into things that people liked, but then nothing would come of it. And then he got the role of the Joker in Batman the Animated Series, and that completely changed his career because now he was the voice of a generation of a character. And that was where he went. He's like, no, I get to do a bunch of voice acting roles now. And it was really fun to get that. And it sucks because he's a good actor. And he would have done a good job in a lot of different things. But, he got the animated route, and it's okay.
Yeah. One of the interviews that I watched, they asked about typecasting, and it was a shame because it was like, Mark Hamill was like, I don't think that's really going to be a problem or anything, and I was like, you don't know where your career's going.
You don't know, but yeah.
I'm sorry.
You're going to be bright-eyed, bushy-tailed Luke Skywalker characters for the rest of your life until something happens.
Yeah. Until he definitely gets into the voice acting parts, yeah.
Yeah, it's just wild. But some of these moments are just so good. And, again, we talk about it all the time. Another great scene that sets up the Carbonite scene. I just love this quote from Han after he's been tortured. They didn't even ask me any questions. It's just a great way to show that the Empire is a bunch of cruel motherfuckers. You don't have to show them torturing everybody all the time. Just throw it in there. Because that line, you're like, wow, what a bunch of pricks. But then when you actually think about it, you're like, what a bunch of sadistic fucks. They would just take somebody and be like, we don't like you. We're just going to torture you.
Well, I mean, they're based off the Nazis. That's what they would do, so...
I know, but it's just awesome to again, show, not tell. And even when you're telling, you're not really telling surface level 1. You're telling level 3, but you're doing it through surface level 1. And I really like that.
Yeah.
And that Carbonite scene is awesome because everyone gets a moment to shine. I love when Chewie's freaking out, and he's just like... And Han... You see Han is actually the good dude that you always believed in, where he's like, this isn't going to help. I need you to take care of her.
Yeah. Chewie's my favorite character in all of Star Wars. So I wish they would show him more. But he has a couple of great moments in this.
Yes. And I
like when he's carrying around C-3PO on his back. That's funny.
That's a great way to incorporate that character to make him useful. Especially in the end when they're making the run for the Falcon. And they're looking and they're like, oh, we're trying to get to Han. And Boba Fett takes off. Then C-3PO's like, Chewie, behind you. It's a great way to be like, let's use this character in a way that isn't just this motherfucker always bumbling behind everybody.
Yeah. I do have one non-consequential question for you.
Sure.
Obi-Wan's Force Ghost, when he sits on the log, does that bother you or no?
Yeah, whatever.
That's how I always feel about it too. I'm like, why are people freaking out about this moment? Does it really matter that he sits on a log?
The whole point is supposed to be, to me, the whole point is anyone who could have this force power, that they're so good in the living force that after death, they can appear to people.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like they get a new lease on life. They get this new ability to do it. That doesn't mean magically their brain doesn't work the same way. So why wouldn't he be like, it's a connect... for instance, I look at it this way a lot with childcare. When I'm actually having a sit down to do a little heart-to-heart, I don't just stand over a kid. It's always, they're usually upset, they're sitting, I sit down with them, I'm like, hey, come over here, let's talk. And then I sit down with them. It's a way to connect and emote human to human. Why would he not do those things? Well, he can't even sit anyways. It's like, no, but it's not about what he can do and what he can't do. It's what he's doing for someone else, and it shows that he's connecting and caring more.
The thing that I always think about it is so you know everything about ghosts. You know their physical properties. It's so stupid how people whine about it. It's just one of those inconsequential things. I'm like, why does anyone care?
Yeah. I adore it. And the only thing I'll say lastly about the movie, because I have a lot of similar notes, my only concerns about this movie is they had it all planned out. I'm like, you could tell Empire still didn't have it all planned out. And you can tell that the arc of Star Wars, where the fans that we already discussed, they're like, he had everything planned out. It's like, it's very clear he did not. Why is R2 and 3PO you can explain. They explain at the end. They're like, wipe the protocol droid's memory. And you're like, okay. That gets him. No one knows that about R2. Why wouldn't R2 recognize shit? Why wouldn't Yoda recognize R2? And more
Yeah.
importantly, why wouldn't Vader fucking recognize R2? It's like, it's been his
Yeah,
droid
that's
since he
very
was
true.
a young Jedi, you know?
And he created C-3PO.
Exactly. And like 3PO, at least, the only thing you could have done is like you could have had him non-plated the entire time, and then he gets
Yeah,
gold-plated,
sure.
and you can be like, we've seen other protocol droids, so maybe that's not his. But yeah, it's that bullshit kind of stuff. But the things about the duel at the end I really like is the shift in Vader. I really love that he's clearly not trying. It's very easy. It's fluid. He's trying to seduce Luke. He's trying to do it and appear friendly and wise or tempting in a way. And then when they get to the bottom after Luke's already been sucked out of the window and Luke's trying to get back up, then he's like in attack mode. He's like, no, I'm going to be really aggressive. I'm going to come after you. And I love that. It's like, no, I'm going to put the pressure on because the first form didn't work. So now I'm going to try tactic number 2. I'm just going to beat you into agreeing with me. And I love that tonal shift.
I I think the beginning of the Vader Luke duel probably is the strongest and my favorite visuals in all of Star Wars. Where it's like that very dark room and then the lightsabers are like pretty much the only lights going on. And there's
And
that
that back
shot of
silhouette
them.
of Vader.
Yes, where they have that shot where they're like up on that platform
Yeah.
about to duel. I think that's probably my favorite shot in all of Star Wars.
It's up there for me too. I absolutely adore that. That's where this shit becomes mythic. Is stuff like that. It's not because of space wizards and laser swords and giant ships that can go light speed. It's shit like that where you just go, yeah, that's cool. That's
Hmm.
awesome. Because if someone painted that, you'd just be like, that's amazing. Like, that's a brilliant
Yeah,
person. But yeah, I love the visuals throughout. And again, the whole thing is dark. And the lightsaber is the only thing doing it. So it has this echo to the only thing that's truthful about this is the conflict. The only thing that actually shows wisdom in this is fighting, which is such a weird concept to think about, but visually that's what it's telling you. And it's a super cool way to see it. Those are the things that I really came to love because obviously I watched Empire plenty of times before this. But watching it for the show and taking
so have
notes,
I. Yeah.
that was the stuff that I was so wowed by. Was like the little details that really took this from, hey, this is a good Star Wars movie, to like, no, this is just a great movie in general. Like, say what you will about Star Wars in general, Empire is fucking incredible. And the attention to the details and the facials and the emotions is what carries this movie. It's not laser swords and space battles and shit like that.
Yeah. Yeah, the only other two things that I wanted to talk on, one completely inconsequential, was did you see that lizard looking bounty hunter?
Yeah, Bosk.
That's like that's like the one creature I don't think fits with the Star Wars universe. That looks like something out of like Skyrim, you
The
know?
Argonians. I can
Yeah.
see it, yeah, but I like Bosk. He's cool, so.
I mean, he's cool looking. I just was like, I don't think that really fits in with this. But
Well, I think the problem
um,
is it's the first time that there's a clear, like, this is an alien.
sure.
Because
Yeah, that's true.
In A New Hope, they show a bunch of aliens, but all the aliens that are humanoid, they just kind of have like slightly changed facial features, but they're
Yeah,
clearly a human underneath. Where like Bosk is just a fucking
a
lizard
lizard.
in a
Yeah.
spacesuit. So it's fun to see it though.
Yeah, and then the other thing I wanted to talk about was actually a thing that I think is positive about the specialized editions is the look of the Emperor in
Yes,
like the I don't know, the hologram, I guess you would call it.
yes.
Like it is so much better in the specialized editions with Ian McDermott rather than the original look.
Well, again, it's a smart, logical change. That's the biggest noticeable change in the whole film when it comes to the special editions is that scene. And it's logical. If you have these clear holograms in the ages of the Clone Wars and even before then, why would you then have shitty holograms
Yeah.
afterwards? Technology doesn't go backwards unless there's an apocalypse. You know?
I wouldn't I don't even think it's about quality. The Emperor just looks weird in the original.
Well, it's a woman playing it, and it's with a bunch of facial features to make it look
Yeah,
morphed.
yeah, the weird makeup on the face just it almost looks like the Emperor's wearing goggles rather than makeup.
Yeah.
Like it looks really, really strange.
Yeah, that McDermott look on the Emperor is just great. You gotta admit,
Yeah,
it's just
that
great.
so I will give Lucas that. That's a good change.
Again, that's really smart change to make, and it fits with the continuity of the story. That's a logical one. You don't need random musical numbers with CGI characters. What you need is logical continuity changes where you're like, we can make the X-Wings look better. And you're like, yeah, make them look better. We can do this better. Do that then. But fun all around. God damn, Empire's so good. Empire's so fucking good.
Yeah, I mean, of all the Star Wars, this is the one that I actually do rewatch. So,
So, obviously, I think we know the question of this. Was it worth the money? Was it worth the box office?
yeah, easily.
And then, worth the rewatch?
Yeah,
This is
even
the high point of this
yeah,
franchise. I don't think
I would agree.
Empire can't be topped. I just don't think... I'm not someone who says can't about sequels and topping things very often, but I truly don't think that it's possible for Star Wars to top Empire, especially with the state that Star Wars is in now.
If they keep making movies, eventually I think it will be topped. But yeah, the way they're going right now, I don't see any hope of it anytime soon.
Right. And that's my thing. I always believe that you can do bigger, better things and you can make better movies. I never want to be the guy that like, the first one's always better. I hate people who say that because there's plenty of examples, Empire being one of them, where it's like, no, the sequel's way better. You know, like, I love Batman Begins. The Dark Knight is a better movie. Like, first Avengers movie, good. Infinity War. And Endgame, 20 times better than that movie.
I would agree. Yeah.
You know, it's just, that's how it goes sometimes. But Empire's such an incredible film. They did such a good job on this, and I loved it. And I hope you guys loved watching this episode. Next week we'll be covering, to get ready for Dylan's favorite, Jurassic World, we'll be jumping into Jurassic Park. And you can tell by the enthusiasm on his face already, it's going to be a fun show.
I like Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park's awesome, so I know that'll be fun. I'm really excited to get you in Jurassic World, because I want to see how bad it gets.
Yeah, it ain't good.
But this next month,
It's worse than I remember.
in this next month, we get to cover Jurassic World. We get to cover Jaws, which I know that shit's gonna slap for you, so that's gonna be a lot of fun.
But yeah, one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah, so we're gonna have a lot of fun with that. But stay tuned to the rest of the show and keep up wherever you can. Thank you so much for watching and listening wherever you may be. Peace, love, and hugs to you all. Goodbye.
Peace.